when we look back in history, humanity has been overshadowed by some of the darkest events our imaginations can grasp. The Inquisitions, the Holocaust, the American Revolution, the Dark Ages, blasphemous kings and religious leaders, slavery and human trafficking, the highest levels of immorality and corruption, Satanism, and the plots of men and institutions who seek to rule over this world. What may shock you is that these events all share something in common: the Roman Catholic Church. Hidden behind the sovereign city walls of the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church has not expressed any remorse for the despicable crimes against humanity that they have committed. Crimes that are often forgotten and covered up in today's society. In its 2,000-year history, the Church has murdered, raped, tortured millions upon millions of innocent men, women, and children. Its ideology and its military wing is founded upon tyranny, with dark vows of eradicating those who do not submit to them in the worst of ways. The Roman Catholic Church's power has grown to such an extent that the kings of the world have bowed down to it since its inception and will not hold it accountable. But in this documentary series, produced by the Black Banners of the East Satellite Channel, we will expose the dark realities of the Roman Catholic Church then and now, and leave no room for doubt. The Roman Catholic Church is the most evil organization in the last 2,000 years. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. It is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. This is why it is said, "Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead." This verse is a reminder for us. A reminder to not only stay away from the fruits of darkness, but to stand up against the tyrants and the non-working scholars in every age, to expose them, to let the truth be a shining light that illuminates the souls of men. It's time to wake up. For the last 2,000 years, every generation has encountered the darkness of the Roman Catholic Church, an organization which has penetrated the deepest levels of government, law, military, and religion. One which has oppressed the innocent and the saints and the true followers of God. One which has committed countless acts of genocide, and who have become corrupted with great power in the land. Yet their truth has been locked away, their history distorted, and their reputation among the people today relatively unscathed. The Roman Catholic Church has portrayed its Vicar of Christ, or its Pope, as an apostle of peace, a worker in the light. But we were warned, for such men are false apostles, deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It is not surprising then if his servants masquerade as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their actions. By their end corresponding with their actions, the end of Rome will most definitely be an evil one. Rome never completely fell. It lived on, and it evolved like a virus jumping from host to host, and it has become very strong today. You will see this throughout the course of this series, but to understand their end, we must understand their beginning. In its earliest stages, Christians were not welcome to build a church in Rome because of the monotheistic teachings of Jesus, peace be upon him. They conflicted with Rome's pagan gods and their polytheism. Rome believed that everything, people, places, and goods were inhabited by divinity. The Romans had a god for nearly everything. It's important for us to remember that this was a time that the Christians were being persecuted, tortured, and executed by Rome. Times like 64 AD, where the Roman Emperor Nero was ruthlessly persecuting Christians, and it remained a theme for almost 50 years. So it is definitely strange and odd that few have asked a simple question. Why would Rome allow the church to establish itself inside of Rome with Rome's ambitions for absolute power and authority? The early church was indeed persecuted by many Roman emperors, but something happened during the reign of Emperor Constantine in the 3rd century. In 313 AD, the Roman Emperor Constantine proclaimed the Edict of Milan out of nowhere. The edict approved Christianity as the official religion of the Roman Empire, giving Christian clergy legal privileges and immunity from military duty and from paying taxes. What could be the reason for such a drastic change in law and in belief? Not 20 years before that, Christians were being fed to lions and boiled alive and burnt to death, crucified. And now they are given immunity from military and from paying taxes? Something doesn't seem right there. Now, most theologians and historians say that this was due to a vision that Constantine saw on the battle in 312, before the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, when he claimed to have seen a vision of a cross of light in the heavens above the sun, bearing the inscription, "Conquer by this." At that time, Christianity was established in Rome, but it was Rome's Christianity. It looked nothing like the former church. It was a good disguise for a Roman Empire that was losing its ideological battle in the world and sought to remain in power by more covert means. Christianity was on the rise in the region, and if Rome could broker a deal between the two, they would no doubt be the beneficiary. Not long after his vision, Constantine hosted what has been the most controversial doctrine between the people of the book today, the Council of Nicaea in 325. The Council of Nicaea was indoctrinated through intimidation and through manipulation. It declared that Jesus was God and of the same substance as God. Any priest of that time that refused this doctrine and debated with it with sound proof and the teachings of Jesus, peace be upon him, were deemed heretics and executed or excommunicated from the church. Their teachings were burnt. Christian self-proclaimed Son of God had now become God, or the Sun God, everything the Romans could accept. The two powerful religions of Christianity and Roman paganism collided and merged into the new Roman religion. Here we see the beginning of sun worship in the new Roman Catholic Church. Mithraism was the most dominant belief of that time in Rome, where they worshipped Mithras, the sun god. But in most cases, the Roman emperors deified themselves and forced the people to worship them. Some of the Roman nobility of that time were even fascinated by the Egyptian mystery religions, so it is safe to say at that time there was a lot of idol worshipping going on. And the emperor had a difficult time convincing the people to turn away from it all and follow the teachings of Jesus, peace be upon him. In fact, Emperor Constantine himself would also have to give up another thing in this case, something that was very dear to him: the submission and worship of the people to his own self. But through deceptive means, it was Constantine who gathered the people all together with his pro-Christian policies, while still maintaining his prior sun-worshipping beliefs. Christianity then positioned itself as the religion of Rome. However, such a huge transition without any knowledge, understanding, or faith produced an adverse effect and introduced pagan customs into the new church. Many Romans converted to Christianity, even the Roman emperors themselves, but in actuality, it wasn't easy for them to give up the ritual rites and institutions of their forefathers, worshiping the sun and other pagan gods. The Romans behind Emperor Constantine sought ways to appeal to the pagans. They brought in things similar to the gods they worshipped before, and they thought it would increase the number of pagans that would enter the church. The former Christians in the Church of Rome, on the other hand, were ready to do anything to keep their faith and their comfort. The Christians began devising plans too. Even if their faith had to be mixed up with the Roman polytheism, it was better than the years of persecution and horror the Christians faced by the hands of the Romans. They put their own fear and safety over their faith and forgot the words in the holy verses. The early Christians under Rome feared the tyrant more than they feared God. The Christians ignored these warnings and continued with the Romans. The church in Rome began Christianizing various pagan gods that would be suitable to go with the Bible. One of the most commonly represented things among them was the Roman sun god worship of Mithras. This can be seen in that time everywhere. In 321, Emperor Constantine said, "All judges, city people, and craftsmen shall rest on the venerable day of the sun." Of course, Emperor Constantine was referring to Sunday, but the meaning was for the Romans. The roots of sun worship in the church were planted by Constantine in 321, and they stretched far and wide. In Ecclesiastical History, Volume 1, J.L. von Monsheim said, "Formerly the Greeks and Romans and others had manifested their piety and reverence towards their imaginary deities, supposing that the people would more readily embrace Christianity if they perceived the rites handed down to them from their fathers, still existing unchanged among the Christians." And they still exist, unchanged. Not only did the Roman Catholic Church adopt Roman sun worship back then, but they remain worshiping it today. Virtually all symbols of sun worship exist in present-day Roman Catholic cathedrals. St. Peter's Square in Rome has one of the greatest collection of pagan symbols in the world. The main altar at St. Peter's Bernini's canopy has the symbols of the serpent, sun and moon worship, and male and female forms of sun rays. The altar even has a woman depicted in pains of childbirth representing the birth of the sun god.